Now, if she's going to have any chance of getting her deal through, the Prime Minister needs to win support from right across the political spectrum, from the ERG to union bosses. And one of those that she hopes to convince is the Labour MP John Mann, who joins us now from his constituency in Nottinghamshire. Thank you very much for being with us. So will you back the Prime Minister's deal?
Well, a day's a long time in politics, so things can change. But as it stands, it's likely I'll vote for the deal, yes.
And how many other Labour MPs do you expect to vote with the Prime Minister?
Well, I don't expect, if I do, I don't expect to be the only one. I'd be surprised if it's anything like enough to get this deal through, but things can change. And you need to remember, I voted leaving the referendum, but more importantly, I voted to trigger Article 50. I voted for the referendum in the first place. Every single Labour MP, apart from the honourable exception of Mike Gapes, did so. And my manifesto that I stood on, the Labour manifesto this time, said we're going to see through the will of the people and the referendum decision to leave the European Union. And so the choices are going to get starker. And there are some choices. The general election, which Labour wants, is an option. I will support that option. I'm very happy to have a general election. But I don't see that getting a majority in Parliament. And whether that would resolve things, whether there would be a Labour government with a large enough majority to see things through, is also clearly not known. Labour could be in power because, just like Theresa May, is a minority government. But that's an option. That's an honest option. There's the option of having a referendum. I disagree with that option. We've given the people a vote, and that's not what our manifesto said. That would be breaking our manifesto. But that's a clear option. And the other option is Anne-Marie Trevelyan's, a so-called no deal. That's a bit of a false option. There's no such thing as no deal. The no deal option actually means thousands of deals into the future with the European Union. I'll give you one example. I'd raised a small matter, the Grand National on the 6th of April. With a no deal, unless we have a deal with the Irish, then no Irish horses will be coming to the Grand National. And if we don't have a permanent deal, either with Ireland and the Irish government or the European Union, then British horse racing collapses, because there'll be no Irish horses ever here again. There will be, with no deal, thousands of deals with the European Union. If you go on holiday to Spain, then there's a deal that will have to be done over healthcare. There's a deal over repatriating bodies if someone sadly died over in, say, Spain. There's a deal over how you get through customs, a deal whether you can take your dog there or not. I mean, there are thousands of deals. So no deal actually is the wrong term. And I think the mess and chaos and uncertainty that will cause negotiating all those thousands of deals is the worst option, other than putting it off. Because my constituents are saying, get on with it. The worst of anything would be delaying Article 50 for me.
I just want to pick you up on one thing that you said in that answer, which is where that you vote for a general election, you'd be happy for there to be a general election, because there'll be some people in the Labour movement who'll be looking at what you're perhaps going to be doing, what we expect you to be doing, which is to vote for the Prime Minister's deal, and think that that is the one thing that makes a general election less likely. And they're right, aren't they? They would be right. You're effectively propping up a Conservative government.
It's not propping up a Conservative government. It's trying to get a structure of a deal through. There'll be a confidence vote. There could have been one put already, and when there is, that may trigger a general election. Labour doesn't have the votes to do that, so something's going to happen big for that to get through. But it's a perfectly honest, legitimate option. I would have a general election every year if necessary. I'm not sure the public. I polled my voters. General election is the least welcome option. I think 8% of them, I polled 5,000 responded. 8% in favour of general election. So that's not where they're coming from. But general election is one option. But the Conservatives are not going to vote for a general election. And intriguingly, the reason I'm comfortable with that is, of course, in a general election, Jeremy Corbyn's made clear, the Labour Party will be going for Brexit, delivering Brexit in the general election. The intriguing thing is that if there is a confidence vote, some of the Labour MPs who are most ardent about a second referendum at all costs, we'll be voting for a general election where that's not going to be an option for the Labour Party. So that's an intriguing dilemma for them. But we've put an amendment, a group of us, to the government on labour law, environmental protections and health and safety. Major red lines for us. And the union leaders have all commented on that. I believe the Prime Minister even talked to them about it. And they've said the problem with it is it's not legally binding. Well, that's incorrect, because with the Withdrawal Act that has to happen for this all to be seen through, then a legally binding commitment to guaranteeing existing rights on workers' rights, on environmental protection, on health and safety, indeed on things like equality as well, is eminently possible, and there's a majority to do it. I'm hoping that the government says that they will back it and they'll put it in. But even if they didn't, we can put that in. And that, to me, is where this discussion, this debate, if you like, the negotiations, need to take place to commit to get us through the hurdle that the two main parties said we'll see through Brexit, because that's what the British people voted for. And that's where I think this needs to go next. And there's not much time, but there is enough time. And at some stage, I think that those kind of deals, i.e. agreement of what's got a majority, will hold people together, because I do think bringing people together in this country is now absolutely vital. The South that generally voted Remain, and the North that generally voted to leave.
And a quick thought from you before we end. You're talking there about trying to get agreement. You went in to see the Prime Minister this week. Did she give you any indication that she was likely to accept any of your requests?
Yes, and specifically understanding that the legislation, not just a promise from the Prime Minister, but the legislation on the Withdrawal Act will need to meet those requirements. And it's not just guaranteeing the existing standards, because our workers' rights, our environmental protections are higher than the European Union. It's also ensuring that they improve theirs, that government will be legally bound to bring those proposals so that the House of Commons Parliament can vote on them. And this is vital stuff. And don't forget, Sophie, there is the possibility that there could be at some stage, perhaps immediately or in the next couple of years, a minority Labour government in the same position as Theresa May. Now, is that minority Labour government, even a majority Labour government with a small majority, spending its entire time trying to construct Brexit, or has it got those guarantees legally in place? In my view, it's vital to do so, that we have, leaving the European Union, a country that competes on the highest standards, not the lowest standards, in terms of pay and conditions. That's the kind of Brexit I want to see. That's the real choice. Do we have a race to the bottom and try and undercut everyone else in the European Union on pay and conditions? Or do we have a race to the top, and we do it based on the highest conditions, the highest standards, being the best in the world? That's the opportunity that Parliament's got, and I want to see the government continue in the next 48 hours to be responsive to specific demands. One of my colleagues, I know, is in discussions with them, with others, over the whole issue of equality law. Let's have the highest standards, but let's have it legally binding in the Withdrawal Act, and let's have that guarantee before Tuesday. That will move us on. Will it get the Prime Minister over the line? I suspect not, but it takes us a lot nearer towards that.
OK, John Mann, thank you very much.